Tales of the Empire.
Yes. We discussed it a couple of weeks ago, our
We did.
predictions.
We
We'd
did.
heard that one story was pretty cool, the other was meh. We predicted the Inquisitor one's probably going to be really cool, and maybe the Morgan Elsbeth one will be meh. It was the other way around.
Oh, really?
It, it,
I thought we got it right. I thought the Morgan Elspeth story was boring as sin.
I found that way more interesting. I thought the Inquisitor one was a bit meh.
In my opinion, the massive, massive time jumps between each episode, her going from child to Empire's in full swing. Bearing in mind we know Grievous died before the Empire actually formed.
Hmm.
And I just feel
we did that with
we didn't,
Ahsoka though. That jumped a lot.
but we already knew so much about
True.
Ahsoka. Elspeth in reality has existed in like for 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not against the jump. I found that Morgan Elsbeth one more interesting. Maybe because it kind of tied in more things. Like I really enjoyed sort of one, I enjoyed this mountain clan that
That was a cool revelation.
this is very new, and the fact that they're almost like a mirror of the Night Sisters, because I presume that planet was. I want to take. Well, I presume it was Dathomir, but obviously it wasn't said to be Dathomir, just because that's where they were, but it might not be. It could have been another place where Night Sisters were chilling. But yeah, that mountain clan was very interesting. That they also have powers. So I always enjoy the mysticism stuff. Her then jumping and being like, she's the reason for those triple pronged the TIE Ds, TIE fighter defenders, which I've always thought were very cool looking. And I looked into them more. Apparently, we're a big part of Thrawn gaining his position of power because he had access to them. Now makes sense how they've tied that stuff in, as to why he has them. I enjoyed the whole kind of setup of that planet where we first met Morgan. I would have maybe liked to see how she was reconnecting with her Night Sister stuff, but we didn't get that. I just really enjoyed the whole her and Thrawn's like connection getting laid out.
So let me put it a different way. It felt like the Elspeth story was to give a bit more context to a character who's been recently introduced, explain a bit of who they are, how they got where they are, explain how Thrawn had the access to these triple TIE fighters from Rebels that you never see anywhere else, that kind of stuff. It felt like filler, in like plot hole filler. I'm not saying any of them were actual plot holes, but that kind of feels like how it was designed, which isn't a problem. Whereas the Inquisitor story with Barriss felt more like a unique story that it never would have mattered if we heard it or not. That story in reality changes nothing about anything Star Wars. It's like here's a cool little story from the universe that you don't know about. And I think that's why I enjoyed it more. I didn't feel like I was going, oh, so that's why that's and that's and that's and that's. Because they are like 15-minute episodes. I want them to be easy watching with a cool little story. Whereas Barris's one, I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. That shows how we like where Daddy, where do Inquisitors come from? It felt like, okay, cool. This is how Inquisitors happened. This is what they had to go through. Eventually, they just got broken down over time. But Barriss, despite being like against the Jedi Order, which is why she was in prison, ended up kind of being at one with the Force and quite peaceful. And this is how her story ended.
Yeah. See, for me, it's like if you think about the Tales of Jedi, that was more like the Morgan Elsbeth one because that was two characters where it was like filling gaps in their story.
Yeah, maybe it was because it was characters I cared about.
Yeah. See, for me, it's like the Inquisitor side story with my brain's blanked on her
Barriss.
name now. Barriss. I found that more so because it's like maybe it's because I was so hyped for the idea of like we're gonna get to see proper Inquisitor stuff, and it was almost like they teased it to us and then ran away from it. And I know that wasn't necessarily, but it's like we got like, oh, this is the process they go through, and I was like, okay, this is very cool. And then it was just like, oh, she's just turned on it now, and like I get it for that character, and yes, it makes sense that she wouldn't have gone full Inquisitor because that's not why she turned on the Jedi. She just didn't
Yeah.
agree with what they were doing. But it was just like maybe it was because I was so hopeful for getting to some like full on Inquisitor stuff, like more so than like this Inquisitor, and now we've turned back to the good side almost. And it's like, oh, but I wanted
I
like
think that's completely valid.
I wanted like Empire, like evil. This was meant to be the Sith side, the dark, like this is, and we got Vader teased, and I was like, holy shit, there's like we got Vader. This is very cool. And then it was like, okay, well, we've run away from this. Where's what?
I think that's fair. I think overall it was not as good as Tales of the Jedi.
No.
I think calling it Tales of the Empire when it was two characters that are actually very anti-Empire
Yes, is what
kind
I
of
think.
felt misleading.
Which here's my thing: if they do I suppose Tales of the Empire, it's two people. Well, Morgan Elsbeth has like a story within like the Empire and things that happened. Not necessarily like one-sided. Like her affiliation is with Thrawn, which is like and it's like an Empire thing. Barriss is like sort of feels away from the Empire stuff almost. If they give us a Tales of the Sith, like I'm okay with this one being called Tales of the Empire. Because it feels like that middle ground. But it's like, yeah, I kind of was going in expecting the flip of Jedi and it being like, we're going to get some darker stuff, but we kind of didn't. So, I don't know.
There you go. That is definitive evidence that we don't always have the exact same view of everything.
No.
Because I was sat here like we nailed which story we thought was going to be good, and you were like, we were completely wrong over which story was good.
I think that also shows our difference in what we like the most. Because we both love Ahsoka and Andor, but you put Andor top, I put Ahsoka because I care about like the cool mysticism and shit getting tied in and new stuff. You like the fuck the Empire.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely fuck the Empire.
So
when the fascism starts, you know who to recruit first. Probably will be too busy going, look at all the cool space rocks.
I'd be the guy going off to some weird planet just trying to, oh, there's an old temple here. Oh, there's an empire taking over the planet. Oh, I don't care about that stuff. Look at wizard sticks.
Hit me with your wizard stick. Hit me.